always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany just one flower. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Selma Hudson, in her book The Rose Mystique, published in 1997 by Great Quotations, wrote, and I quote, "Vishnu, supreme god of India, created his bride from 108 large rose petals and 1,008 small ones." Unquote. But I rather like this thought from Robert Francis in Bouquets. One flower at a time. I want to hear what it is saying. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The Righteous Brothers with an Unchained melody and Norah Jones and Come Away With Me. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Again, Selma Hudson in her book The Rose Mystique, published by Great Quotations, wrote, and I quote, "In Greek myth, Chloris, the goddess of the flowers, discovered a nymph who had died in the woods and turned her into a flower. Then Aphrodite made the flower beautiful. Dionysus gave it a sweet smell. Zephyr, the west wind, blew away the clouds, and Apollo, the sun god, made the flower bloom. All the work of these gods combined to turn the flower into a beautiful rose." Unquote. Selma Hudson in her book The Rose Mystique, published by Great Quotations. This hour, one flower at a time, with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Roberta Flack, The First Time Ever, Bette Midler with The Rose, and Celine Dion with The Color of My Love. I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. Richard Carlson from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff with Your Family, published by Hyperion, wrote, and I quote, "When you let someone else win an argument, often you both end up winners. If one of my children says you never spend any time with me, my impulse might be to respond, but I spend lots of time with you. Don't you remember just yesterday we went out to lunch?" What I have found, however, is that my willing participation in the argument does nothing more than keep it alive by feeding it with attention. Sometimes a better response is "You're right. I hope we'll start spending more time together. I love you so much." Unquote. Richard Carlson from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff with Your Family, published by Hyperion. This hour, one flower at a time, from iTunes and CHFI.com. Chantal Kreviazuk, and It Feels Like Home. Loggins and Messina with Danny's Song, and Amy Sky and I will take care of you. And I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. Edna McCann in The Heritage Book, 1978, published by Collier, Macmillan, Canada, spoke of a puzzle her father always liked to ask. It is one from the Middle East. She writes, and I quote, "An old man decided it was time to divide his herd of 18 camels among his 3 sons. He kept the camel he loved best for himself and had 17 left. As was the custom, he gave 1/2 the herd to his eldest son, 1/3 to the second one, and 1/9 to the youngest. Question: how did he do it? Answer: he added his own camel to the 17, making the total 18. 9 camels went to one son, 6 to the second, and 2 to the third. Now there was 1 camel left, the one the old man loved best, and he took it back for himself." Edna McCann in The Heritage Book, 1978, goes on to write, and again I quote, "My father liked to end the answer to the puzzle with the old saying, 'If you give away that which you love, it will be returned to you.'" Unquote. This hour, one flower at a time. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Air Supply with The One That You Love and Sting's Desert Rose. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. M. Scott Peck from People of the Lie, published by Simon & Schuster, wrote, and I quote, "The whole course of human history may depend on a change of heart in one solitary and even humble individual. For it is in the solitary mind and soul of the individual that the battle between good and evil is waged, and ultimately won or lost." Unquote. This hour, one flower at a time. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Wednesday, the 19th of May, 2010, John Lennon, Imagine, and Sarah McLachlan with One Dream. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. One final thought this hour. Colette from Letters from Colette, edited by Robert Phelps, published by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, wrote, and I quote, "As I opened the drawer of my little desk, a single letter fell out. A letter from my mother, written in pencil. One of her last, with unfinished words and an implicit sense of her departure. It's so curious. One can resist tears and behave very well in the hardest hours of grief. But then someone makes you a friendly sign behind a window, or one notices that a flower that was in bud only yesterday has suddenly blossomed, or a letter slips from a drawer and everything collapses. Unquote. An excerpt from Letters from Colette, published by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. The power of one this hour. And that's ultimately the reason why, one flower at a time. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.